let's get to some Texas football discussion. So I saw this story yesterday. Some pretty interesting stories. So the DraftKings odds for the 2025 NFL draft came out, and they have the odds for who's going to be the first overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft, the number one overall pick. And like I said, I was a little surprised, but Shadur Sanders actually has the best odds right now, overall odds to win. Oh, sorry, to win, but it would be essentially a win to be the number one overall pick in the NFL draft in 2025. He is followed by the next shortest odds or best odds is a tie for Carson Beck at Georgia and Quinn Ewers at Texas, both at plus 300. Shadur is at plus 100, and Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers are both at plus 300 with the best odds to be the first overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft. Yeah, likely, basically, if you're the best quarterback coming out, you're going to be the top pick. Is what
yeah, saying. I mean, we saw what happened this year's draft. I mean,
oh, yeah, exactly. Teams are going to reach for it.
Yeah, I mean, what was the consensus that everybody said that day two quarterbacks are dead? That you're either a first rounder or you're a late rounder? There's no more middle ground anymore.
There's no middle class of quarterback anymore.
No, that's what everybody says is, look, no one's waiting on a quarterback anymore. You're either a first rounder and I mean, I know Will Levis was one last year, so I don't think that's fully true. But
no, but I'm with you though. I do think that's happening though, because teams are so desperate that you're like, man, if you have any type of elite traits, it's gonna push you toward the first round.
Yeah. And teams are so desperate, and everyone's so desperate to find a quarterback that people are going to take it. And every year there's at least 6 or 7 teams that either want a quarterback for the future, that they need one in like 2 years or a year, or there's someone who needs him right now. So there's always going to be somebody who feels they got to get one. And there's usually not 6 good quarterbacks. So
no, you're right. But I'll say the one thing that is just nerve-wracking though. I know the NFL it's a quarterback desperate league. There's no doubt. Quarterback thirsty teams. And yet the Lamar Jackson thing just still boggles my mind that this dude, he was made available to go talk to teams, and all it would have taken was 2 first-round picks, and then you'd have to pay him, but you got to pay your quarterback anyway. I mean, that's just when you get a big-time quarterback, you got to pay him. Everybody knows that. And 2 first-round picks for a franchise quarterback, honestly, seems pretty low considering how much teams pay just to trade up in the draft to get their quarterbacks and position themselves. And that dude was made available. And not only I think only 2 teams actually talked to him. That was Carolina and Las Vegas. You had teams like Washington, Atlanta, like the Jets, New England, New Orleans, who wouldn't even have a conversation with Lamar Jackson. And he wins MVP his second. He was an MVP then when he was made available. And teams were so desperate, they're willing to reach for a J.J. McCarthy and reach on a Bo Nix. And reach for all the help. Reach for Michael Penix if you want to throw that out there too. Atlanta, the prime example. Atlanta, you spent $180 million on a aging Kirk Cousins coming off an injury, and then spent the 8th overall pick on an aging quarterback coming out of the draft, Michael Penix, who I like, by the way, who also is injury prone. And I'm thinking to myself, what are the reasons that teams wouldn't talk to Lamar Jackson? They kept saying, "Oh, too injury prone." And these dudes they've guaranteed like $80 million to Kirk Cousins coming off the injury with Father Time just wailing on this dude. That I don't understand. So, yes, you are right. Teams are really desperate for quarterbacks. But what the hell was that? To me, if that's not a proof of collusion, I don't know what is. Y'all did not want Lamar Jackson negotiating his own deal. Y'all did not want him to do that successfully. And you didn't want him to manipulate the quarterback market successfully. They didn't want that. So, if the agents, the teams, everybody was against Lamar Jackson, you can't prove to me otherwise because it doesn't make sense to me then. After watching his draft, why Lamar Jackson why there wasn't more interest in him, I should say that.
No, I'm with you. I mean, look, the Patriots drafted 2 quarterbacks.
Yes.
He drafted 2 in the same draft.
It's like, what? Yeah, exactly. Come on.
People do not care about picking up quarterbacks, and I get it was a lot of money. There was a rumor that he wanted fully guaranteed, and no one wants to give out the fully guaranteed. But he didn't get fully guaranteed, so you should have still offered a non-fully guaranteed, and maybe Baltimore would have just matched it because they could, I believe, match it out of that as well.
Matched it,
but I would have called Baltimore and been like, okay, this is what we'll give you the trade. We'll give you 3 first. We'll still get him.
Still, that's So you're right. The NFL, you're right about that. I love that theory though. There is a divide now. If you have anything close to an elite trait, teams they're gonna risk it for you. They'll just risk it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not just my theory. This is a I've read this multiple times over the week. That multiple people are saying the day 2 quarterback is dead. That it is basically all about the first rounders and the late rounders. But because we also saw like Spencer Rattler and Jordan Travis and the kid from Tulane, Michael Pratt, all those kids dropped out of day 2 into day 3 as well.
Yeah.
Where there was questions that maybe they were second, third round picks. They all drop down into day 3 because we got to pick up all our other stuff now. Now we can wait on a quarterback. We don't care as much.
No, I agree with that. I like that theory there too. To continue with these number 1 overall QB odds, they got Jalen Milroy plus 950. I think it's between those top 3 the quarterbacks. I don't necessarily think Jalen Milroy is not any sophisticated, elite enough passer to be. And he's a really good athlete, but he's not like Michael Vick or anything. He's like Cam Newton at the quarterback position. So I don't think he'll be the number 1 overall pick, but. There you go. So Quinn Ewers should be in a discussion. One thing that worries me about Quinn, though, and I brought this up before, and shout out to my man Matt Buller because he sent me. My man Matt does a great job. He has now he's got a fantasy podcast too, which I'm telling you guys should check it out. I'll give you some details about it too, but it's really good. But he was sending me some numbers on Quinn Ewers' pressure to sack rate. This is something that Quinn's got to work on. NFL scouts have brought it up a couple of times behind the scenes that they're a little troubled with his pressure to sack rate. That's how often you end up sacked, compared to how often that you are pressured as a quarterback. And last season, his pressure to sack percentage was I think around 24%, which is pretty high. Shadur Sanders is at if you go look at overall, he's at 20 for his career, 21%. For Quinn Ewers' career, he's at 20.7%. For his career, he's actually doing pretty good. But unfortunately, like last year, that number rose for Quinn. It actually increased last year to around 24%. So that's something to watch. He's got to handle pressure better. NFL scouts want to see him because one thing that he does, and I've talked about this, he looks at the pressure instead of feeling the pressure. You want to be able to look downfield, keep your eyes downfield so you can get through the progressions. Don't stare and look at the pressure because once you do, you can't see anything else. You won't be able to focus on anything else but that dude barreling down on you. You got to keep your eyes downfield and feel the pressure. This is what they call pocket science. Being able to still work your way through the pocket, find space in the pocket, and keep your eyes downfield. And like Penix, remember, we always said feel the pressure. And that's what so sack avoidance and working on his pocket science. I think what he's got to work on. Yeah, here are the numbers for Quinn Ewers. He had, in 2022, his pressure to sack rate was 13.9, which was great. I mean, it's like, oh, that's really good. And in 2023, it rose to 25.2%. It's a hell of an increase. Now, Shadur Sanders also gets sacked a lot too. His he had a career high pressure to sack rate of 25% as well last season. So this is a big year for Quinn. That number's got to go down. His pressure to sack rate, it's got to go down. It's got to go down for Shadur Sanders too. That's why the reason they had a new OC, because he was getting sacked a lot.
Yeah,
and he was throwing the ball away actually a lot. So his sack numbers would have been even higher. But you go watch him, he wouldn't throw it away as much. And later in the season, he started throwing it away a little bit more. But he's a quarterback that moves around better than Quinn Ewers. So both of those guys, but for Quinn Ewers specifically, here just talking close home, that number's got to go down for him. And I think just watching him for me, Patrick, it's because he identifies the pressure by seeing it. He stares at it, which inevitably will take your eyes away from the downfield passing game. And I think that's why he scrambled more last year, because he would see it. And his second reaction was just scramble and get the hell out of there. Sark wants to see him stay in the pocket and find space in the pocket, get deeper into the progressions, and then be able to make the throws downfield. In order to do that, he's got to be able to feel pressure a little bit better. And some quarterbacks do it naturally better than others. He doesn't do it naturally really well, but that's got to improve for him. That's one of the areas the main areas he's got to improve on.
Yeah, if he can figure out a way to, it's that innate feel, and we've talked about it before, I don't know how you practice it. I don't know what you do
it's tough to practice
to try and improve that, but I'm sure there's people that have, methods that they swear by, and he'll be trying to do all those during.
They got virtual reality stuff now. I'm not making this. They got virtual reality, like AI, like things that you can put on and use, and they actually can simulate pressure.
Yeah,
and stuff, and the game plan. So that may be a way to do it too. I'm sure Texas would have access to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
might already have it.
And if Texas doesn't, he can afford to go do it.
Yeah, you can get an NIL deal. You got an NIL deal with a private jet company. You can get an NIL deal with a virtual reality simulator.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you don't have the NIL deal, you can afford to do it. those other NIL deals can afford to pay for this thing to allow you to get better.
That is very
it's something that's a little different about today's game, which is great for the players, is they can afford to spend their money on their own training in the off season and times like that, where before that was not necessarily the case. You go back to your high school maybe and work out there,
you work out in,
and do stuff like that. But now it's, hey man, I can go to the best training facilities and work with NFL players now and try and get better and better. But it's a different world.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. Comparisons to pressure to sack rate before we get out of here. Jalen Muro, he's at 31.9 for his career. His pressure to sack percentage. Not good at all. Just because you're mobile, just because you can move, does not mean you're going to be good at avoiding sacks. That's why Patrick Mahomes is amazing at it. He's great. A lot of times the mobile guys, they are some of the guys who actually are the worst at sack avoidance. So it's not necessarily always connected to your mobility as a quarterback, but you need functional mobility. But except the career for Quinn, just career is 20.7. But like I said, last year, from year 2 to year 3, there was a huge leap from 13% to 25% pressure to sack rate. That is, I think, an identifier that he may not handle pressure really well. He's got to improve on that. Dylan Gabriel's at 18.9% for his career. Carson Beck's at 12.2%, just to give you a little context on it. All right.